You want to talk to them about Black Lives Matter? What do you think? I know. You agree too, huh? You're ready for a change, aren't you? Hey guys, it's Katie. Welcome back to my channel, or if it's your first time here, welcome. Thanks for being here. Today, I want to talk to you all about one of the pandemics going on in our country and in our world. And I say one of the pandemics because obviously I think we're all well aware by now about coronavirus. I'm talking about racism and discrimination in general, and racism and discrimination against Black people. First of all, I guess I'm like slightly, I don't know if nervous is the word. I felt a little weird about filming this video. And don't get it twisted. Not because I'm ashamed to be promoting this or talking about this. Not at all. But I guess because I always have a fear of feeling preachy or making it about me or coming up like trying to be savory-ish. So for what it's worth, those were some thoughts that ran through my head. Also, I'm a little embarrassed or a little scared to come off as dumb and ignorant, but I think the reality is that's part of it right there, is being able to cough up to your own ignorance and not hide behind it. So I just felt like in good conscience and good faith, I couldn't post anything else on my channel. I admit I'm kind of a hot mess, and I have actually a lot of stuff, a lot of content that is pre-filmed, that is waiting to be edited. I also have so many ideas. Now I'm officially out of school. I'm a teacher and I have a lot of things that I could start filming, but I couldn't post anything on my channel until I came to talk about Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and the movement that is happening in our country right now and in our world. So where do I begin? I think I want to start off in saying that if anybody is watching this right now who is Black, I want to tell you that your life matters to me, and that from this point forward, I am so committed and dedicated to doing the work and doing my part in finally making a change in racism. I also want to say that one thing that's been so crazy for me personally, and again, I don't want to make this video about me, but it is about, this is my channel and it's about my experience with this. And so, you know, I've always thought of myself as a good person, a quote unquote good person. Flawed, yes. Overall good, also yes. I've thought of myself as being somewhat, you know, like more progressive than others or whatever, typically on the right side of history, that type of thing. Non-racist, not seeing color, things like that. But one thing that I've learned in the past week or so, I mean, I'm kind of losing my days. No, I think it's been more than a week. I'm filming this on June the 4th, by the way. Hopefully I can get it up ASAP. One thing that I've learned is that I am 50% white, 50% Hispanic. That's a whole other subject for a whole other day, but that in itself, I don't know. I could identify as either because I'm truly 50-50. However, I know that for the most part, I look white. I can pass as being white. And something I've learned is that, you've probably heard this, it is not enough to simply be non-racist. We must be anti-racist, and there is a difference. That is something that I don't think I really knew, or if I knew it, I didn't really firmly grasp it and understand it until everything that has transpired in recent times. I saw a meme, or I guess that's the word for it, that talked about, somebody was saying that George Floyd was the oil that got this fire going, with everybody being so outraged and wanting to make a change and wanting to change policies within the police force, and with wanting to stop discrimination, and with promoting Black Lives Matter and all of that. But then I saw somebody say, no, George Floyd wasn't the oil, he was the match. You know, and I know for me personally that that's kind of true. I mean, he was like, it was like the straw that broke the camel's back, with all the indiscretion and all of the trauma that the Black community has had to face since, honestly, the beginning of time. So I know I personally felt super, super moved. I don't even know if that's the right word. I felt a lot of things when I first heard about the George Floyd thing, and when I tried to watch the video, which I couldn't get through. You know, there's so many other important people that need to not be forgotten. You know, Breonna Taylor and Trayvon Martin, that case has always weighed heavy on my heart for a long time, and Ahmaud Arbery, and the list truly goes on and on and on. But George was the match that put us where we are right now. And I personally, as horrible of a situation as it is, and as much as it would be amazing if we lived in a world where we didn't even need to get to this point, it's the reality. And so I do think that I feel, it's so hard for me to put it into words. I feel so many things, but I just feel so moved, so compelled, so thirsty for knowledge, so thirsty for change, so thirsty to just like do better, be better, promote being better, encourage others to be better. I didn't get to this point earlier because I just have so many thoughts on all of this. But one thing I was going to say earlier, not only did I kind of really start to sink in the whole, we can't just be non-racist, we have to be anti-racist, I didn't really realize, and probably still don't, I mean, I'm trying, I'm getting there, I'm learning more. I did not fully grasp or realize the privilege that I hold in this country, being a white, half-white woman in America, or a white person in America. That is something that I have been slowly wrapping my head around with every story that I've heard, and every meme that I've read, and every article and fact and this and that, and all the information that has been put out there. I am shook. Not to make it funny, but I'm shook that, wow, I've had a very different experience than maybe a woman in my exact same position, my same age, maybe a similar career path, maybe a similar personality even, but who has a different color skin than me. We've had a different experience. And that's just really, really moved me. And so I just wanted to get on here again. I've been ignorant. I believe that I have fallen into some of those implicit biases and those internal biases that we don't even realize we learn, but through media, through what's socially acceptable, through what we see and what we experience, that we get biases that enter our brains. And of course, I've never tried, I would never fathom intentionally being biased. But that's just it. I'm not intentionally being biased, but the biases are there. And so now it's our job to intentionally be unbiased. And I just wanted to say that, well, I'm going to share a few resources that I personally have found that have just kind of helped me. And I feel like my work is not done. There's many other things I want to watch and read, etc. But there are some things right away that I can recommend to you today that have given me some food for thought, that have helped me start that conversation within myself, with my family, with my friends, with you guys. I just think it's so important. And if anybody out there is watching for any reason feels differently, I want to say that, you know, for the people who want to say all lives matter, not Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, and all of that, it's really easy to become super angry at that and to become like just enraged and just feel like, oh my gosh, these idiots. I mean, I know, like, I have very much felt that way, but I do think that if you feel that way, if you're feeling like all lives matter and why is that, and I'm not racist and whatever, I don't need to do this, I want to try to stay calm, and I want to try to encourage you to educate those people. And even if it's just like sparking something, if I can spark somebody out there who's watching who feels like all lives matter and we need to protect the police force at all costs and this, that, and the other. I'm not saying that we shouldn't protect the police force. I'm not saying that every person in the police force is bad. I'm not saying that the country doesn't need a police force. But I am saying that I am asking you to please do some research, do some soul searching. If you're somebody who has felt like this movement is going on and that's great and that's cool, but you don't want to say anything about it, you don't want to post a black square to your social media, or you don't want to post a Black Lives Matter hashtag on your social media, or you don't want to, I encourage you to ask yourself why. I encourage you to have that conversation with yourself. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here, you know, you don't owe me an answer per se, or owe anyone an answer. I mean, but I think that is a place to start. If you don't believe that racism is real, or you feel like this is a crazy liberal thing that you just don't want to touch or don't want to support, I would encourage you to break those walls, figure out where those feelings are stemming from, and do some research. This is not about politics. I don't care if you are the most conservative liberal, whoops. Now there we go, conservative liberal. The most conservative Republican out there, or if you are the most extremist left liberal Democrat there is. This is about human rights. This is important, and this has been going on for so long that it makes me sick. But I can't get swept up in that, and it's just about change. It's about doing what we can. It's about now. And so here comes my little boy. He can feel that I'm getting passionate here. I don't want to be preachy. I don't want to, I have a long way to go. I have a lot to learn. I have a lot to do I still have a long way to go to do my part. But what I do want to share with you right out the gate, I have 3 books that I've read over the last few months. I'm so behind with my editing, you guys. I don't even have any of these videos up on my channel of these book reviews, but I have 3 books that are fiction books. I know there's a lot of nonfiction out there right now, which is great, and that's more directly, specifically about white supremacy and racism and all of that jazz. These are 3 fiction books that are great, amazing stories, quick reads, like summertime reads, now we're in summer, that also deal with themes of white privilege, white supremacy, prejudice, racism, and I really encourage you to give these a try. So the first one out of these 3 that I read is this one. It's called Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reed. This is a Reese's Book Club pick. This was also this author's debut novel. She is a Black author. I don't want to get too into it. This is not meant to be a book review, but this focuses on the story of a young Black woman in, I believe it's Philadelphia. She is a babysitter / nanny to an affluent white family, and one evening she is out in public with the white little girl that she babysits, and the security guard at the store harasses her for being a Black woman with a white child. that is what happens at the beginning, and then it focuses on so much beyond that. It focuses on themes of white saviorness, white privilege, the relationship between white people and black people. This is set in modern day, and it got my wheels turning so much. I think it's so thought-provoking, so well written. I read this in 3 days. I highly recommend you read this. The next one that I read that I'm going to recommend today is called Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. This is an author that my mom and I, we've both read this. We have loved her for a long time. She is a white woman. I actually don't fully know what her, you know, ethnicity or how she identifies. I think she's white, but she might be a little bit of a mixed race. And the only reason I'm even pointing that out is because I just think it's really interesting to hear different viewpoints and things. And I actually really respect Jodi Picoult. You might say, what business does this white woman have writing this book? I actually commend her for doing so much research in these topics and for being so brave and bold as to talk about these uncomfortable but very real things. So this is called Small Great Things, and this is about a black nurse who works in a labor and delivery unit at the hospital. She is very intelligent and very good at her job and all this kind of stuff. And so she and her black son live in a relatively affluent area of, where do they live? I don't remember where. I think it's somewhere on the East Coast. But she comes from less wealthy black family. That's the life that her sister still leads and the life that her mother leads, where her mother works for a family. Her mother's kind of like the help for a white family, etc. One day she's at work and she is covering for somebody who is getting off of their shift as a woman is going into labor who is a white supremacist. The woman and her husband are both white supremacists. The baby gets born. The baby essentially has a complication happen to it and it dies. And I'm sorry, that's not really a spoiler. That's basically what that's kind of the beginning. The family sues the nurse and the hospital, and it hits the fan because she is a black woman, and it is jarring. My jaw dropped so many times throughout this. It is disturbing, the white supremacy stuff that happens in this. I would say that this is a pretty extreme example, or at least it has a lot of extreme examples within it of racism and just like that outward and overt, obvious racism. But I found it to be important, moving, thought-provoking. It makes you check yourself. It makes you check your privilege. It's a really great book. And the third book that I have read in the last few months is this one. It is called An American Marriage by Tahari Jones. This one, or Tahari Jones, I hope I'm not pronouncing that wrong. This was an Oprah's Book Club winner. I don't know if it has a picture of this author. It does. So this is also a black woman, and this is amazing. This is the story. It's like so on the nose right now. It's the story of a young black couple who get married. They live in Atlanta, Georgia, and on the night, I think it's like shortly after, I'm forgetting exactly, maybe they've been married for about a year, they spend the night in this kind of motel in the main character's small hometown, where an older white woman at this motel gets raped and accuses Roy, the main character, of doing it. Roy did not do it. Roy is innocent. However, the police barge into Roy's hotel room where he and his wife are in bed, and he gets taken off to prison, where he is in prison for the next, I believe it's 7 years. And so this obviously very much so hits home with kind of what's going on right now. Luckily in this case, the police did not murder Roy or anything, but it very much so tackles those issues of racism and assumption, and assuming that black men are up to no good, or assuming that, this white woman gets raped at this place. Was it Roy? you know? So all three of those books were absolutely incredible, and I highly recommend them. I know that there are other nonfiction books out there and probably other fiction books. There are so many lists out there right now. If you just Google, there are so many resources. Another thing I want to recommend right now is a documentary that I watched the other night on Netflix. It is called 13th. It is, I'm trying to remember the director's name. She directed Selma. She's a very like kind of well-to-do, well-known director, and it is essentially a documentary about the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, which, if you know anything, you know, if you know about the Constitution, let's see if I can find it on here. It is the amendment that abolished slavery. However, Ava DuVernay, if that name means anything to you. So the 13th Amendment was what abolished slavery. However, this really dives into how the prison system and mass incarceration essentially became the loophole in which slavery is indirectly still legal in a sense. But it's so much more than that. There is so much information. I found myself learning things that I feel like I should know, but again, admitting ignorance is part of this journey. There are things about Nixon and Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump, even before his presidency, and Bill Clinton, and different policies and different things that I had no clue about. And this was so educational. It was so moving. I highly recommend it. And after that, I started watching it's like a mini series on Netflix, and it is called Time. I don't know if it's like a Time branded thing. The Khalif Browder story. I've only watched one episode. I plan to watch more. Khalif Browder is somebody who they actually talk about in the 13th documentary, and he has just a terribly tragic story where he also gets charged for something that he didn't do, and he spends 3 years in one of the most dangerous prisons in the country, Rikers Island, which is in New York. I believe it's in the Bronx. And I mean, I know at this point this video is getting long, you guys, so I'm gonna go, but I couldn't go on posting about makeup and dating myself and perfume and books and other fluff like that when we have a real problem happening, and we also have a real shot at making a change finally. So, to quote another meme that I have seen, keep your foot on the gas. Let's not lose this momentum. Whether you're donating, you are reading and watching and listening to podcasts and educating yourself, you are having conversations with family and friends, you are doing some self-exploration, you are protesting, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever step, no matter how small, keep your foot on the gas and let's make a change. Thanks for watching, guys. Love you.